Welcome to the Stronger Together podcast brought to you by Sandpoint Strength and Conditioning. I'm your coach, Kenny Marquardt, and today I am joined by a longtime client of mine, Michael Welp. Michael is he's a great guy. He is also, in addition to that, he's the owner of a company called Full Partner Leadership, which we talk about mostly in this podcast. I think it brings a lot of really interesting, great perspectives, and especially as we go into the holidays, we talk about interpersonal relationships, we talk about self-reflection, we talk about validating others. It's a good conversation, and man, he's got a lifetime of experience facilitating these kinds of things. So it's a great listen, great lessons, and I hope you enjoy it. All right. Michael Welp, welcome.
Hey,
Just
thank you.
literally just saw each other
That's
so,
right.
so long ago.
You wore me down a little bit and just thought I'd have to talk still, huh?
Maybe we should probably start doing these mid-workout for people, and I'll ask them some more hard-hitting questions and see what kind of torture mechanisms I can enact and see what we can learn.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do a podcast before workout and then do another one after an intense workout and just see if it's got a different flavor to it.
That's a good idea. I think that's a great idea. You've been at the gym for what, 8 years? Is that what we saw on the board the other day?
That's what I saw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I got recommended by Amy Midstoke,
That's
who
right.
I'd done food stuff with, and I've been doing hot yoga for years, and she's like, you should work with Kenny. So she connected us.
Yeah. And then you got passed around a little. You had
I did. I got passed around. I can't remember what happened, but Andrea, yeah. Let's see. How I've done about four different people.
Amanda.
Amanda got, yeah. She didn't tell me till years later that I was her first client.
Oh, that's probably what happened. That's probably what
Yeah.
happened is I think I was
Oh, you
making
were-
some room for her to step in. And I bet you weren't her. Yeah, she'd done a lot of group stuff. So you might have been her first personal. Might have
Yeah.
wanted to been her first personal.
Yep, she was great. And then when I think I had some injuries over the years too. I had one time where we were doing this big, huge pump out to see where I was on that chart, and my shoulder gave out, ended up being frozen, and then my knee a couple years later jump roping. So that's partly taken me off and then back in. And then I was with Kirk for a while. Nick's filled in a little bit. Yeah. So I'm back with you.
Now we come full circle. You and I have similar-ish weird schedules. So it actually works well. We're been out of
Okay.
town. We got wacky, Zoom calls all day, and
Right.
sometimes, yeah, one of us is running from a call to the gym. So yeah, I don't know. I've been
Right.
enjoying it. I hope you are too. It's been a bit of
I am. I mean, honestly, to go, first of all, it's like under 5 minutes to get up there, just straight down to the lake. And, it's like I go in, you just crank it out with me for 45 minutes or whatever it is, 3 times a week, and then I'm done. And it's like if I had the self-discipline myself to do that regularly, I would end up sidetracked or blowing it off and stuff. So I just love it.
Yeah, cool. Well, I enjoy the heck out of it too, and I sympathize with the same. Because even if I go do my own thing, I've said this a million times on this podcast, but for your reference, if I go do my own thing, I'll screw around, find something on whatever Instagram or an email to answer, hang an Elkhead, and there's a million
Right.
things to do. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have the accountability of someone to say, "Hey, do this, do that, jump around."
It is actually. And I get mindless.
Yeah, you do. Actually, we've had that conversation as a group of coaches. I think you were in that. Is that you're a little bit dangerous because you will
All right.
literally do anything without
Yeah,
question.
right. We should tell to run into that brick wall with kettlebell.
That's what we're doing today. Okay.
I didn't realize I was that obedient that you guys.
I think it's trusting. I think you you've put a lot of
Sure.
trust in us, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
That's true.
That's good.
Yeah, pretty well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
And you've been consulting me on other stuff, and I bring the InBody or my macros and food, and just overall being really helpful.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot. what I actually really want to chat with you about is your work. I think you do some incredible different stuff, and as we get into it, people will hear what I'm going to try and say, but there
Mhm.
are there are words around what you do that I think are, I don't know, confounding, misleading, that I'm really interested to have you on here to talk about.
Yeah.
Especially as told you before this, right before we started, especially with the holiday of Thanksgiving right around the corner, with the potential for conflict and whatever else.
Right.
Um,
Right.
you have been called. What were you called by Tucker Carlson? Were you a terrorist?
I was called a crackpot facilitator
Nice.
by Christopher Ruffo on the Tucker Carlson show.
Okay.
I think one of them was referring to my work. My work with white men around diversity, which I started like 30 years ago. White men as full diversity partners. And it's like I have a TED talk about it, which gives more background, but it's taking white guys as a place for us to do our own learning without putting others in the burden of teaching us around, our lives and being white and men and learning how to be better partners and allies to women and support gender equity as well as all kinds of differences, but also how to enrich each other's lives and ourselves in our culture. And it's been a very powerful leadership program for a lot of corporations over the years. But yeah, it was victimized to the post George Floyd era of anti DEI. So squashed and a couple hit jobs on Tucker Carlson show particularly.
I thought that would be a good hard opening for you. That was your you've been called as such, but that is not your official
A
title.
facilitator, yeah, right. Right.
You
I
don't
think that,
strike me as a crackpot facilitator, and we spent a lot of time together. So
yeah, if a
yeah,
bunch of generals in the defense industry can't stand up to a bunch of crackpot facilitators, how are we supposed to stand up to China?
is that what it was?
Well, yeah.
Nice.
But the portrayal was that we beat up white guys, we tell them they're bad and all that, which is the opposite of what we do. We actually, guys have loved the work that we've done with them, and you know. Several clients found 4 months afterwards, the coworkers noticed these guys listened 33% more. And their wives would send thank you notes to the companies for listening differently and really all that stuff. It's everybody can benefit from that kind of reflection and learning. So we're just proving that, even if somebody wanted to pretend we weren't doing what we were doing and doing the opposite, we enriched a lot of people's lives.
The participants that you just cited, were they eager to do so? You said they had positive feedback, their partners had positive feedback, other people in the workplace had positive feedback. Were the participants in what you referenced, were they willing participants, or were they reticent to do this?
They were across the board because companies like defense contractors were like, this is mandatory. If you're a VP, you need to have this learning and or a director in the company. So not everybody would, voluntarily come and be happy about it. But usually about of a 4-day program, usually after the evening or the 24 hours in, they're like, wow, this is first of all different than I ever thought it was. This is not some kind of, white guy camp class or something on, it's really powerful. It's deeply reflective. It has me thinking about how to be a better human, how to be a better leader. How can I be more vulnerable with other men as well, each other as resources in ways that we don't typically do and connect. And so there were still some guys that were die hard. I'm not going to get anything out of this. You can't make me, particularly after 5 years of companies pushing people through and the people that held off the most. But even they got a lot out of it. And, honestly, there's media that have been so anti-diversity that they likely were propagandized by that for so long that they determined that they weren't going to get anything out of it. But we worked with a lot of guys across the political spectrum everywhere, had tons of valuable learnings and appreciations over one.
What was what was their perception of what they thought it was going to be? Like, it was going to be a shaming, like it was kind of a, like, hey, do you know what I mean? Like, if they had come in tainted.
Yeah, I
Tainted
mean,
is probably not the word, but like if they'd come in with a perception of what it was that was incorrect, what was that
well,
perception?
We had a lot of mixed race gender sessions, but we did these white male sessions because nobody else knew how to. We had a specialty there. But a lot of guys were like, did I do something wrong to get sent to this? Are you going to tell me I have to change my values? And they feel and see in the media. We do some brainstorming around what comes up for people around, people assume that we only care about diversity because we have to. We're being forced to, that we can't understand other people's realities. We don't care about other people. So there's been a lot of projection onto our group based on some people's experiences, lived experiences of our group, that has other people attribute negative intent to us as a group. And therefore, we have negative credibility when it comes to diversity traditionally. And guys are defensive about that. They're sort of like, I feel blamed for everything. I feel like I had one mistake. I'm out of here. I'm going to get fired. So all that pressure, just creates a lot. But I don't know. One thing I think of doing in my life is a organizational composter. It takes energy that's stuck in organizations and use it to create change and transform and things. But I really want people to own their humanity and to help see the humanity in others as we rehumanize the workplace. So, in this anti-DEI life, I've rebranded as full partner leadership. I've done a lot of having to not just title everything through the DEI lens, which I chose to do, but my sauce is really experiential learning coming from Outward Bound years ago, designing experiential processes in a retreat format for people to have tough conversations and have breakthroughs in work issues and work projects and build the heart-centered skills like listening deeply to connect. A lot of people don't know how to listen to connect. They just know how to listen to forget, listen to debate or listen to fix. And particularly men, we've been trained to do that. Think our only value comes from doing and fixing as opposed to being, and being in our hearts, being vulnerable.
Oh yeah. That was a crazy eye opener for me. Like I thought that was just what it was. I learned that. I don't remember what context it was.
Yeah.
Began learning that, but my intuition is to fix. And like you said, like there's a great. Have you seen? Have we talked about this YouTube clip where the nail on the forehead? Yes, that maybe you use it to me.
I showed it a while ago, and then some people said, well, that's actually women look stupid. That
Yeah,
yes, like the guy looked like a good guy. So I haven't, but you know, it's not about us throwing away our fix it muscle because that's appreciated. It's about not overusing it. And some people just want to be heard, seen, cared, and also if I'm fixing everything, what skill am I empowering in others? What enablement or affirming other people's wisdoms is another way to go.
I thought yeah. So the clip that we're referencing for the listeners is there's a woman with a nail in the middle of her forehead, and she's sitting with her partner on the couch, and she keeps complaining about a headache or referencing a headache. I've got this pain in the middle of my, and the spouse or partners keep saying, "Hey, I know how. Like, I'll just let me pull out the nail." And she keeps saying, "It's not about the." I think that's actually the title. It's called "It's Not About the Nail." So look it up. In any case,
Stop
what
trying
I
to fix.
yeah, stop trying to fix it. And then like he gets over the thing by just saying that must.
Must
I
really hurt you.
understand how you feel. That must be really hard or something. I think
And
what I
she
took from
said,
that.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Exactly. I think what I got from that in reference to what you talked about, like it's actually very hard. I almost felt more of an understanding with the male character to say, yeah, that's really hard for me not to be like, I got the part. Like, what are we talking about? This is the solution. Go away. I found it. I think that was the challenge of trying to just sit back and listen. Like I found that to be very
Mm-hmm.
validating in that, and just saying, hey, look, it's not always. So in any case, I don't think that was I think it was
Mm-hmm.
a good thing. So
Yeah. Well, I think you're right in terms of, and lately I've been applying everything I learned about how do you create partnerships across differences to the political differences. And I wrote this, and it's a free download at my website, and it's like, how do you help people have constructive conversations across political differences? And I as I said, share with you, I piloted that in my men's group in town because we have super liberal all the way over to Trump voters. And now I'm starting to do more of those workshops in Sandpoint and across other parts of the company. Somebody wants me to do one in the Bay Area today. But, ultimately, how do we humanize the other side? Because the media, we're just tuned into media that dehumanizes the other or attributes negative intent to them. How do we see each other through complexity and each of our lives and life experiences that created our beliefs? So I hope to build a cadre in our town of people who have had that bridging experience and become bridgers.
Yeah. You referenced the download in your website that for the audio people. What website is that, and what's the title of the download?
And then there's a resource page that has this, and as a PDF. It's a 44-page book.
And what is that? Sorry for people listening. You
What
opened
is
up
what?
again. What's the title of your thing you're holding up? I can read it, but
Grassroots Guide to Polarizing the U.S. So it's just a a workbook, kind of reflection type thing on a bunch of ideas on how do you have tough conversations across difference? How do you slow down and ask questions that humanize the other person? How do you, first of all, rehumanize yourself and depolarize yourself? So, how do you make yourself more curious about the other perspective? How do you make yourself more clear about seeing the humanness in others? And there's on page 40, there's a bunch of great questions that we use, like what's at the heart of your political perspectives, Kenny, and what life experiences have had that have created those experiences. So my job is to get really curious about your life and how it's shaped how you see things. Individual. You're not representing a political party. You're just yourself and all the messiness, including feeling different perspectives that are across the spectrum of political stuff. It's unique to you. How do we get to that? These are the same skills that are really core in all relationships.
so you where does that start? Like what's chapter one, page one of this? Which I'm laughing because it's a hard. I'm sure that's not a. But what's the
Yeah,
like? What's
of,
how do you start
of
this?
the political one, or just in
Well, I think in
character.
general, I think what you just said was
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really related to all relationships. So in a broader sense, like what's the first step of this?
I think, if you think about the ability to have messy conversations with others, some of us, the challenge is to bring our voice and speak with courage and vulnerability and openness. And we don't have any problem listening for the most part. Other people, it's the flip side. They never lose touch with their voice. And their challenge is to tune into others and be open to others' viewpoints. So I think that's the first point, Kenny, is to recognize, is it more difficult for me to tune in and express my opinion and my voice clearly, or either be clear on what I believe, not lose track of it? For me, I'm such a good listener, naturally grown up in that skill. I sometimes forget my own beliefs, literally, or I get kind of a identify with other people's perspective. Oh yeah, yeah. Wait a minute. What was it I was feeling? So my challenge has been to, my other name of my company was Equal Voice, was to claim my own voice, to speak it. And for a lot of other people in leadership roles or in family or whatever, they never lose touch with their perspective, but they have a trouble putting it aside and listening to your perspective with openness and being able to, at the end of what you said, Kenny, reflect back what you said so you'd feel seen or heard versus judged or argued against. So the courage to speak your truth, the ability to connect with your heart, and the ability to listen, form empathy. So you can speak your truth. You can also listen with empathy, and then there's other skills that I think are about just being able to sit in the messiness and discomfort and turbulence. So we got to get more raggedy and more comfortable being uncomfortable. That's another skill. What dysregulates you, and how do you stay regulated, or how do you ask for a timeout? And then seeing both and perspectives is another skill. I call it balancing paradoxes. How do I see our perspectives may actually be different, but they may speak to the same issue. You're just holding up one value more than I am, and I'm holding up another value. So they both might be true, even though they seem opposite, you know. Um, so we have to balance opposites all the time. We think long term, we think short term, we think strategically, we think tactically. We focus on task, but we have to stop and focus on process. You know, we have to tolerate that cognitive messiness and the emotional messiness of all that.
It's pretty complicated stuff. I mean,
It's complicated. Yeah, and then the other skill is to see systemically insider outsider dynamics of, you know, what creates somebody to have more, they feel a voice, they feel heard and seen, and who is more on the margins, and then noticing that. And if we're usually as individuals tuned into our outsiderness, less tuned into our insiderness, but we can use our insiderness to help amplify other people's voices. So you can think about the gym as what are insider outsider dimensions at the gym? Who has more status or more voice or more influence? You know, it's like I would imagine some of it is about time and tenure there. Some of it, you know, might be just, you know, physical ability. Some might be playfulness, ability, as we joke about, to banter and belong. And yeah, so there's all kinds of layers that I help organizations see, and then how to intervene amongst your peers um, to disrupt exclusion and amplify other people's sense of belonging.
and then that, yeah, sorry, there's so much because
Yeah,
thinking about it in terms of interpersonally and as a organization and is just in a general sense, the
yeah.
impacts of all those and kind of like,
What's the situation that you're most trying to get clear around? Would it be like a family thing or an organizational dynamic, or what do you think the
I don't
would
know.
be?
Well, sorry. So then I don't know. I don't know that I had a specific. I guess as we were joking about before, let's talk about interpersonal stuff. With it was kind of a, I don't know, cliche or joke or whatever, but like people coming together for Thanksgiving and the holidays, like inevitably, I feel like a lot of folks end up in some form of conflict. So in terms of interpersonal conflict, that may be exacerbated by alcohol or penta. I don't know. There's a million different situations in which
Yeah.
this can occur, but I do think these are probably, if we're going to highlight a time of year for interfamily or some sort of conflict, it's probably over the next 6 weeks. So, what in a family dynamic does that change, like a conflict resolution, or maybe that's not the word you'd use for it, but in terms of a family dynamic, does that change?
Yeah, I mean, it's so many layers of complexity there around what, you know, who has more influence, who has more voice, who has, and then, you know, what does it take to belong? What and what does it take to belong? What if that is healthy? What if that is unhealthy? What drink in order to belong? You know, for example, too much, or where's the point of choice? But I think one thing that is up for Thanksgiving for a lot of people, because it does have a tendency to have people think Thanksgiving, it's about gratitude, you know, and what are we grateful for? And I have to think about, you know, one thing that a colleague of mine said, you know, I think a good role of education in society is for people to be aware of their gifts. And do people really share and honor and see what each other's gifts are? We did this thing at the end of this 4-day leadership session last month where everybody drew a name of somebody else in the circle. And then we said, oh, you got 15 minutes to interview as many people as you can about what that person's gifts are. And so they went around informally, just grabbing, making notes and stuff. And then they all sat back down. They went around the circle. And I had Kenny, and, you know, he's got a great sense of humor. He's not afraid to challenge people. He's flexible. He's always seems open to, you know, ideas, sense of humor. He never rejects anything I say right out. All right. I'm just saying these off the top of my head, Kenny, but that's
No,
the
these
kind.
are that sounds like you. Sounds like me.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what Jen would say. You could ask her. And dedicated to family, you know, and wanting to grow your son's skills in hunting in areas. And I think, I don't know that, how much do any kid growing up in our society, do they really feel seen for their gifts, their unique gifts? And do we reflect that to them? And so they feel that sense of some of who they are growing up. And, older people too. It's helpful for us to reflect back and think about this. So that's one thing I think of besides conflict, is how much is there a muscle in the family of recognizing and appreciating each other's strengths and gifts. Like, I like the Clifton Strength Finder instrument because it's about that. It points out people's strengths, 5 top strengths. My top ones were empathy, adaptability, and positivity. And I can see how that's a thread in how I work and facilitate and things. But I think that's another thread, because there's a polarity in society that's appreciative versus critical. And a lot of problem-solving focused organizations are big at fixing things, as you said earlier, and we don't take the time to stop and appreciate what's working well.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you like about family dynamic? What do you love about the family and the time? If there is any of that, what is when the family's at its best, when the family has had the moments in the last few years where you've said, wow, this is a beautiful moment. This is the essence of what happened, what created that. What did you do to help create that, Kenny? What did your other partner do? And to just capture from an appreciative inquiry, it's called lens, what causes success in our family. So those are a couple of things, helping people think about and see their gifts, feel seen for those, and noticing what creates the moments of success. And so do those in balance with dealing with the conflict moments too, the moments where something is part of a thing that can happen in a family. Is there can be an awkward moment and everybody just doesn't say anything, and then walking on eggshells. So one of the things that might be courageous is to say, ouch, that actually doesn't feel good. Or what, that moment that happened yesterday, I still don't know what to say about it, but it didn't feel right. Because then you're acknowledging something happened, checking in with people. And you can always use this clarity that we use around conflict, which is the difference between your intent and your impact. I will often go to defend my intent. Yesterday, this happened, but that wasn't my intent. And if I want to repair something with you, it's more important for me to own my impact. How did I impact you, Kenny? It doesn't sound like it had a very good impact.
Yeah.
So I apologize for that. And if I defend my intent, that doesn't help, because it's really the impact that impacted you. It's like, how do I take ownership for my impact on you? And then that's a skill of repair.
So in that do you feel as though the intent versus the impact, explaining the intent with could you elaborate on that a little bit more? What I think I heard was like, yeah, it doesn't really matter what you meant to do. It's what you actually did. But I'm curious to know if that helps with because I did hear an apology part of that, to say, hey, I'm sorry for this impact. My intent was, do you feel like does that take away or impact positively the apology? Did that question make any sense?
Yeah, I think if I'm going to discuss my intention, it should be minimal, and it shouldn't overshadow my own impact I'm having.
Understood.
And some people totally defend their intent. They take no responsibility for the impact. Well, I didn't intend that, therefore I'm nothing impacted. It's like, no, it's I want to own that, you know, I want to go to the impact I had on you as a priority. If it's helpful somewhere in the information to talk about my intent, or I can even ask you, do you want to know what my intent was? Because you may not care,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't want to use my intent to avoid taking ownership or acknowledge that the impact was harsh on you. It was. And so that's I think the priority. And one thing that Alison Armstrong is a woman that the men's group here we used to have brought years ago to the Canada movies. And she suggested for men saying this, is there anything I need to tell you I'm sorry for? And that's an interesting question, but not just for men to ask women, but for anybody. It's like, is there anything I need to tell you I'm sorry for? It's like, If I'm not sure, that's going to go right to what is hurting in you.
If you're not sure what, sorry, what do you mean? Who's sorry? In the juxtaposition of the two characters, I may have gotten lost. So do I? Is there anything I need to? Is there anything I need to apologize for? That's the question, correct?
Yeah, say you've had some, you can tell Jen is hurt by something,
Well, this
or
isn't like an everyday thing. Like this is not like a just like a closure on the day. Sorry, I think I
no,
misunderstood the
no,
context of this. This was not a
no.
dinner table conversation. It's just
You have
asking
a
about.
you have a hunch that something you did has created something negative.
Understood. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. I'm
Yeah.
glad I
Sorry.
clarified that
I may
before.
I may have jumped.
No, all good. I just, when I see you next week and I say, well, every day I've been asking what I need to, if there's anything I should apologize for, and
That's right.
boy, was there a long list. No, not really.
But I think the other question is, wow, I know this harms you. What most hurts about it? So I want to understand, how was that what was that impacted you negatively? That's just another way to ask, is what might you mind most need to say I'm sorry for? Is like, what really hurt the most? And understand that. So that's using that inquiry as opposed to defending myself. We don't need that tool every day, hopefully, but
Yes.
we might need it a couple times a month.
Yeah. Maybe as you're working through some tough times, but yeah, other than that, probably not a everyday exercise. We actually do bright spots around the dinner table, so we talk about positive things throughout the day. I'm glad I don't have to add in. Do I
Yeah, I
have to?
like that.
Yeah, thanks.
That's like bright spots. It's like the happy lamps in the winter.
Totally. Yeah. What's the best thing that happened to you today? In fact, as a tooting of my own horn, or Jen's probably because
Huh.
but Garrison asks me that all the time. What was the best part of your day, Dad? It's freaking cool. It's one of the coolest things that,
That's wow.
yeah, we've imparted upon him. So
Wow, that's amazing. I'm just, yeah. We used to do some of that, share what we're grateful for as we went around, and sit and sort of as a prayer before our dinner meal. And yeah, it's kind of come and gone as a ritual, but I love that that's planted in there.
it's pretty neat. Yeah, I'm proud of that one. It's
Yeah. I would ask him, what skill, what strength in you are you most grateful for this year or
about his
this?
own reflection on himself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What, not about the day particularly, but what quality in him is he most appreciative of himself for? That'd be interesting.
And
You know, a Thanksgiving sort of opportunity,
got
you
it.
know, as we're having this Thanksgiving, what skill, what quality are you most appreciating in yourself, and what quality you most appreciate about others at this table? Another
I like that.
thing, since you're have normalized some of that already, and so
That is a fun. We do a similar around the dinner table at Thanksgiving. I think what like most people do,
yeah,
but that's a pretty neat. That's my favorite part of the whole dang holiday. So
the gratefulness.
yeah, and it's I think the vulnerability because it has been a very similar group over the years, and I'd like to think that we foster that due to those who have been there or who started off and they realize like okay, this is a place like we can. This isn't a like I'm thankful for my whatever new shoes. It's a real hard look at this is the actual stuff that matters, and this is what was a really positive impact on the year. And
Yeah.
again, that doesn't sound like a vulnerable conversation, but it has become such to really tear down the like bullshit, and actually find
Hmm.
out what people care about. And I think that's been
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. It's the questions that I have in the guide that are kind of humanizing questions that are inviting people to share more bold stuff. What crossroads are you at in your life? What are you proud of in the last year? I went up to this guy who was homeless in Boulder once, and I said, "What are you most proud of in your life?" And he looked up at the stars for a second, and he said, "Just helping people." I was like moved by that. I was like not expecting him to say that, but sometimes find inviting those inquiries that what has meaning for people, or what has moments in their life. It's been, pretty cool.
Do you feel like it's hard for people to acknowledge their own strengths, successes, etc.?
I think it's normalized to be humble in some ways, and yet I think it's good for people to be able to see and witness. People tend to be hard on themselves and undervalue some of our strengths. Other people overvalue their strengths and don't have any problem. You know, I think I think it's a skill to recognize the super unique skills, the uh uniqueness in each that has you see the humanness or the qualities in each. I mean, my daughter Nina has just an amazing sense of humor. She can get laughing and she can get a lot of people giggling just by that energy, and that's kind of a cool uniqueness to her. In
Definitely.
addition,
Yeah.
it's like I've always thought about that. So yeah, just again seeing the human uniqueness in each of us and celebrating it.
And yeah, and being comfortable acknowledging it with yourself. Like I don't, I'm in that camp. Like I get so uncomfortable with any sort of compliment. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a humbleness or whatever, but I think that's from my own recognition of that. I've also seen it in many other people who are like they're so fast to write off their own accomplishments or successes as luck or right place, right time or whatever. Um, so, but I also know that there's a lot of people that have a lot of challenging mental health stuff where I think a lot of it's a displeasure with or discontentedness with themselves, but they're also like the last person to acknowledge their own positive things. So it's an interesting dichotomy there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I love the breakthroughs people can have in owning strengths, being seen or heard and validated for their uniqueness. Yeah, I
So what are you going to go around the table and acknowledge this year at Thanksgiving? What's your tradition? Do you have one?
well, you're making me think. I like the I like the line. I like the line. Maybe I'll do the one that I just suggested, which is what's a quality in yourself that you want to appreciate and acknowledge today, and what's each of the other people at the table. Because we don't often name those things. It's, particularly when you put it in a context that's unique to each person, you're not just, guessing or sort of, you're giving it a little bit of thought and reflections.
How many people at your dinner table?
20, no, it's probably about six, five.
I was going to
There's
say that
always,
could take a long time if every person's got to talk about themselves and then 18 other
right.
people. You might never eat. Just, I
That's
don't know.
why when,
Let's
yeah,
workshop this a little before we go live on Thanksgiving Day.
yeah. In that workshop, we had everybody draw a name and they got one person.
Got it. Okay.
Actually, because I grew up in a family with five sisters, I had six of us, and we actually drew names at Christmas, so you got one person a gift, one sibling a gift, and then so that we didn't have to buy little things for everybody, but did something more significant.
Yeah. I like this self appreciation and appreciation of one another. So maybe that's what we're going to do. Draw names out of a hat. And you have to accept the compliment. You're not
How
allowed
many?
to
How
discredit.
many?
What'd you say?
Thanksgiving? How many are going to be there for you?
I think 11, 12. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where are they all coming from? Oh, that's because you have your mom and your whole everybody. Yeah,
Yep.
got it.
Yep.
That would be a lot bigger than what I. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think we could do it. I think we can pull it off.
Yeah.
So, what I'm hearing from you and what I've come to understand, I think, over our time together in this conversation is understanding people. Like, is one of your bigger missions is to try and help people understand themselves and each other.
Yeah, it is. It's really I want people to see the humanity in themselves and in each other and the humanness, the uniqueness, the strengths, the gifts. And that because I want people to relate more deeper with each other and to have less aloneness and feel more sense of connection and belonging. I don't think a lot of people know what actually creates psychological safety in teams at work And so teaching people what this Adrienne Marie Brown's house about the speed of trust. How do you actually move at the speed of trust and allow people to build and still build connections? One of my mentors, Ed Schein, was at MIT in organizational culture. And he said in the US culture, we build the minimal relationships to get the task done. In other cultures around the world, they normalized building a lot more connection before they would work together. They'd sit in Mexico or somewhere for a long time getting to know each other. So I think what is under, as our world gets more complex, we have to build more relational connections, get tasks done. And, so we underappreciate the relational qualities and connections. And so building those abilities, what is it that allows people to feel safe, feel connected, feel seen, feel like sense of belonging? There's a lot of research shows you actually got a lot more productivity when that happens. You get less safety incidences, you get less attrition in workplaces and stuff. So yeah, I think it's about teaching the subtle micro skills of intimacy, emotional connecting. So being present, being appreciative, yeah, just being open and reflective. And one thing that builds that skill is to share to somebody how they impact you. So if I was to say, generally, almost always a joy to come do a session with you because you're always in a state of playfulness and openness to whatever strange thing I bring up, and you're always curious about it. Whenever I joke, you always receive it. And that's in improvisational theater. People call that accepting each other's offers, and it's what builds fun and play and comedy. John Gottman's work in research and relationships is also what makes successful relationships is accepting each other's bids. It's the same comedy, improvisational comedy, and successful relationships, seeing and accepting and building on each other. So I don't feel you ignoring my comments much at all, for better or worse, but you often build on them too. So there's a quality to that I really appreciate. And I was happy to land back with you and have more of our times after us starting out, whatever it was, 8 years ago.
Well, thank you. Me too. And I appreciate you accepting my propensity to let things roll. I like that that we talk about the banter. We've talked about that before. I don't feel like ours is quite as we talking about it in that sense, but there is I feel what you're saying, that improvisational, like, all right, I got this. How about you get this? And some I appreciate your comfort with that because you never know where it goes. And I think that's what's uncomfortable for some folks to participate as either the giver or the receiver because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it goes off the rails. Sometimes I say stuff I didn't really mean to say. Sometimes it's, and, but I think that's a lot of fun. It makes it fun. It makes the relationships, I think, as long as they're comfortable, like I think you're with the right person, as long as they stay within, I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I have a lot of fun working with you, man.
Yeah, mutual. But also, whenever I throw questions at you, you give them reflections and thoughts and come back. If there's really stuff just about my health and stuff like that, you're always giving me ideas because I think you're out there with your, eyes on a lot of different things and you're constantly sort of looking for the best practices and stuff. So you're just well connected into resourcing.
Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, where can people find you for, I know we mentioned your website and stuff before, but before we wrap up, I want to give people an opportunity to be more exposed to you and what you do and how you help organizations, people. Where's the quickest way to Michael Welp?
Yeah, I mean, probably at the newest website, this brand, Full Partner Leadership, and, fullpartnerleadership.com. You can also Google my TED Talk on my name, Michael Welp, or White Men as Full Diversity Partners, my other older website brand. Those are easy ways to grab me.
Got it.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks, man. Thanks for everything you do. I think you're making, it's not to be said lightly, or I think it's a cliche thing to say, but I think you're making the world a better place. One person's self-reflection and interpersonal relationship at a time. So it's pretty cool.
Thanks. Nice to chat.
Yeah, you too. I think I see you tomorrow again.
You do.
Yeah.
8 o'clock.
Early. All right, pal. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you in the morning.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks. All right. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you get to utilize that. Well, maybe I don't hope you. I hope you get to utilize the, validation and learning and self-reflection part of that conversation. Maybe not so much the conflict, but if you do, I hope you get to utilize some stuff that we chatted about. And if you want to know more about what Michael does, fullpartnerleadership.com, or I probably can just connect you because he's in the gym almost every day. So enjoy. Not enjoy. I hope you enjoyed it. And hear us next time.